Hi, my name is Chloe Harper, I'm 28, and I've always been the helpful one in my family. The one who makes sure everyone else is happy while my own happiness seems to be optional. I work a demanding job in marketing, I volunteer for family events, and somehow, despite all my efforts, I always feel invisible. Last night, my mom, Karen Harper, called me into the kitchen and said, "Chloe, I need you to cook for a surprise party tomorrow. Can you handle it?" I didn't think twice. I love cooking for people, but something in her tone felt off. A small voice in my head wondered, why am I always the one doing everything? Doesn't anyone notice me? So I spent the whole evening chopping vegetables, marinating meats, and decorating cupcakes, humming along to the radio, while Karen watched occasionally, smiling, but in a way that made my stomach twist. By the time I finished, the kitchen was spotless, the food perfect, and I was exhausted. I remember wiping my hands on my apron, feeling proud, when my younger brother, Ethan Harper, peeked into the kitchen and whispered, "I think you're going to love tomorrow." I smiled weakly, tired as I was, but a weird knot formed in my stomach. Little did I know, the surprise party I was cooking for was actually my own birthday party, and no one had bothered to tell me. Growing up in the Harper household was complicated, to say the least. My mom, Karen, always had her favorites, and unfortunately, I was rarely one of them. She praised my younger brother Ethan for every little thing, winning soccer games, getting decent grades, even tying his shoelaces so neatly. Me. I was expected to quietly excel in everything, never complain, and always help. My dad, Richard Harper, was kind but distant. He worked long hours and seemed to believe that keeping the peace meant staying out of conflicts. So when Mom snapped or criticized me, he just nodded or muttered, "Don't take it personally," which made me feel even more alone. Even birthdays weren't mine. I can still remember turning 10, baking a cake with Mom while she scolded me for messing it up, and Ethan sitting on the couch, being showered with praise for merely being cute. I learned early that my efforts rarely earned acknowledgement. It wasn't just favoritism, it was the feeling that my existence was secondary. I helped with chores, took care of Ethan when Mom was busy, and tried to be the perfect daughter, hoping for a simple smile or a word of thanks. But it never came. Even now, as an adult, that old pattern repeats itself. I cook, clean, organize, and give everything of myself, only to find out later that my work was taken for granted, or worse, that I was the last to know that it was all for me. Ever since I can remember, I've thrown myself into helping my family, hoping one day my efforts would be noticed. I've stayed up late planning dinner parties, organizing holidays, and making sure every detail was perfect, all while juggling my full-time marketing job. I've sacrificed weekends, social events, and even my own hobbies, always putting them first. For example, last year's Thanksgiving was exhausting. I spent 3 days preparing everything from scratch: roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, pumpkin pie. I woke up at 4 a.m. to make sure the kitchen was spotless before everyone arrived. My mom critiqued the gravy. My brother complained the cranberry sauce wasn't sweet enough. Yet, somehow, I was expected to smile through it all. And now, here I was again, preparing a surprise party that I had no idea was for me. I chopped, stirred, garnished, and cleaned, pouring my love into the food, thinking I was helping my family celebrate someone else. Every time my mom peeked in, she gave me a satisfied nod, which only made the knot in my stomach tighten. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. Maybe this time it would be different. But a nagging suspicion lingered. Why didn't anyone mention it was my birthday? Why do I always find out last, if at all? The more I worked, the more the suspense built. I could feel it. Something was about to snap, and I wasn't sure if I would laugh, cry, or scream when it happened. By the time I finished, the kitchen sparkled, the food looked like it belonged in a magazine, and I was physically drained. Yet, emotionally, I felt raw, like I had poured my soul into something that might never be recognized as mine. The next morning, the house buzzed with activity. Balloons, streamers, and a huge banner reading, "Happy Birthday, Chloe," suddenly came into view. I froze, spat out a shaky laugh, and looked around. My mom, Karen, grinned like nothing was unusual. "Surprise," she cheered. I felt my stomach drop. Every ounce of energy, every chopped carrot, every cupcake I had painstakingly decorated. I had been working for my own party without even knowing it. My heart twisted, not from joy, but from disbelief and frustration. "You knew?" I asked, my voice tight. My mom's grin faltered, replaced by a shrug. "Well, we wanted it to be a surprise," she said lightly. Ethan giggled, clearly enjoying my confusion. I wanted to shout, to throw the cupcakes across the room, to make them understand how invisible I had felt all these years. Instead, I did the only thing I could. I walked out of the kitchen, slamming the door behind me. Silence swallowed me. My hands still smelled of garlic and butter, my body still aching from the work, but my emotions were raw. For a moment, I just leaned against the wall, tears threatening to spill. The party went on without me, and for the first time, I realized just how much I had been taken for granted. After that morning, I knew something had to change. I couldn't keep pouring myself into a family that didn't see me, didn't value me, and didn't even bother to tell me when a celebration was for me. I decided it was time to vanish, not in anger, but for survival. I spent the next few weeks quietly selling off belongings I no longer needed, packing what mattered most, and closing chapters one had clung to for far too long. I quit my job, left my apartment, and drove to a small town a few states away. It felt like I was shedding the weight of years of invisibility with every mile. In this new place, I started small, a cozy little cafe job, a modest apartment with sunlight streaming through the windows, and the freedom to make my own schedule. For the first time in years, I cooked for myself, experimented with flavors, and didn't have to please anyone else. Slowly, I began to make friends who saw me, listened to me, and appreciated me for who I was, not for what I could do for them. I even started a small catering side business, focusing on clients who valued my effort and creativity. The satisfaction of seeing someone's eyes light up at my food, for the first time in forever, reminded me of what it felt like to matter. Bit by bit, I rebuilt my sense of self-worth, realizing that my happiness didn't depend on my family's approval. Most importantly, I finally understood that leaving wasn't running away. It was choosing to survive, choosing to prioritize myself after a lifetime of being overlooked. And for the first time, I felt peace. A few months after I moved, the Harper family tried to pull me back in, subtly at first, then with increasing pressure. Karen called sporadically, leaving messages about imagined emergencies or hinting at guilt. "Chloe, I don't know how we'll manage without you here," she'd say, her voice dripping with manipulation. Ethan, now aware of his sister's absence, sent awkward, half-hearted apologies through texts. "Sorry for how things went. We didn't mean to hurt you." I read them, nodded silently, and ignored most of them. It wasn't enough. Then came the lies. Rumors spread that I had abandoned the family, that I was ungrateful, that my disappearance was selfish. Even distant relatives called, subtly echoing the same manipulative rhetoric. At first, it stung. I thought about returning, about giving in to the familiar, comforting illusion of family. But each time I remembered the way I had been treated, ignored, unappreciated, expected to labor for everyone else, I knew I couldn't. Not this time. I had grown stronger, more self-aware. The past would not dictate my present. I refused to be manipulated by their guilt trips, their apologies that were more about them than about me, or their attempts to pull me back into a life where I was invisible. I had learned my value, and I wouldn't let anyone diminish it. Now, sitting in my small sunlit kitchen, stirring a pot of homemade soup for myself, I finally feel at peace. I think back on that birthday, the party I unknowingly cooked for, and the years of being overlooked. It stings, yes, but it also taught me something invaluable. Leaving wasn't about punishing my family, it was about survival. I realized that my worth isn't determined by whether someone acknowledges my efforts. It's inherent. My happiness, my self-respect, my life, they belong to me first. I've learned that family isn't always about blood. It's about those who see you, support you, and genuinely care. And for the first time, I'm surrounded by people who do. I'm no longer invisible, no longer taken for granted. I'm thriving, creating, and living on my own terms. So here's the lesson I want anyone listening to take away. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. Family is proven by love, not just blood. I smile as I take a sip of soup, thinking about the journey from being overlooked to being whole. I'm Chloe Harper, and I finally see my own worth.